What's up, everybody? D-Man back. Welcome to the 19th episode of Godzilla-Thon. This one shouldn't be too long at all. This one's actually going to be rather quick. We've already reviewed this movie before, Godzilla 1984. We did the Japanese cut. This is the English cut. There's almost nothing different about it, so I'm going to kind of blow through this one. Like I said, this is Godzilla 1985, aka the English version of 1984 with Raymond Burr. It's pretty good. So, let's get into it. Mine, the VHS, by the way, it starts out, there's this weird animation. If any of you guys have this, it's called Bambi Meets Godzilla. It's about a minute of drawing of Bambi sitting on screen, and then Godzilla's foot steps on it. It's really weird. So, we get a fiery, epic intro. The Yamata Maru sank by Godzilla. Goro investigates the boat. He finds Okamura. That's the dude's name in the Japanese cut. I believe he has a different name in the English cut, as we'll talk about in a little bit. It is immediately found out that the monster is Godzilla in this cut. This cut's it's obviously an English cut and it has American actors in it, but it's also edited differently. It's edited a lot quicker pace, but yeah, things just happen much faster in this one. So Godzilla is found out immediately to be the monster. We immediately get the media blackout effect. We meet Hayashida. Godzilla sinks the Russian sub. The Americans and Dr. Pepper figure out what is going on. So we have some American scenes spliced in throughout this whole movie, obviously. But one of the weirdest things about it is the scene where some of the military personnel are walking through a hallway, and there's just the most obvious Dr. Pepper product placement I've ever seen in my life in the background. It's really bad, but we get a lot of stuff, a lot of American scenes that don't have anything to do with anything. Like, even when the Americans in the Japanese cut wind up firing and shooting down the Russian nuclear bomb, in the Japanese cut, they serve a purpose. In the English cut, you hardly see any of that. You could have had a full subplot of the Americans trying to figure out the proper way of, like, how are we going to shoot down this bomb or whatever, and then they eventually do it. Nope, you don't get any of that. You just get just cut to the bomb being blown up. It's real bad. Like, nothing the Americans do in this movie matters. So we get a lot of them freaking out, trying to figure out what's going on. So and plus, the American scenes don't know whether they want to be a comedy or not. Initially, they were going to take, when the Americans bought the rights to this movie, we were going to take it and we were going to make it a comedy movie. Raymond Burr stepped in and was like, I don't know why you think you're going to do that. I'm not going to let you. So he kind of saved this movie's English cut. But the Americans and the Russians, they plan for war. It is revealed that the monster who sank the sub wasn't an American sub, it was Godzilla. The Americans all panic about their lack of knowledge of the situation. They call in for someone who knows what's going on. The UN meets to discuss nuking Godzilla. The Prime Minister, as well as the Japanese... the Prime Minister, as well as with the Japanese cut, he refuses, stating that Japan has a strict non-nuclear policy, which is really good. Glad that they carried that over. The Russians set up a nuke to bomb Godzilla anyways. The military searches for Godzilla. Godzilla makes landfall, destroys a nuclear power plant so he can eat. Godzilla is distracted by some birds, and he leaves. The American recut, they recruit and they recut. They recut the scenes so that the Americans, in the American added scenes, recruit Mr. Martin, aka Steve Martin from King of the Monsters. He is the only known American survivor of the 1956 Godzilla attack. Yes, 56. King of the Monsters takes place in 1956, not 54. But they recruit him because he's the only known American survivor of the attack, so he joins their operation. But the real question is, when they go to pick him up, why would his grandkid be allowed to play with a Godzilla toy? That's what I walked away questioning, is his grandson is seen playing with a Godzilla toy. I feel like someone who was there during the 1954 attack, and especially someone as intense as Steve Martin in this movie is, which, by the way, Raymond Burr is the only reason, I know everyone says it, but it's true, he is the only reason to watch this English cut. He's great in it, but I feel like someone as intense as the character that he plays, I don't think that kid would be allowed to have that Godzilla toy. I feel like that kid would be that kid at school, that know-it-all about the 1956 attack, who's like, spews all the important facts. Sarazawa died doing this or whatever, and he's like, I feel like he'd be pretty knowledgeable on the situation because his grandfather witnessed it firsthand, and I feel like his granddad would probably tell him what's up. So I don't know. It was just something weird a weird flaw that I found with the movie. The Super X has stated that it's being prepared. Hayashida and Ken, aka Okamura from the Japanese cut, so there's his name change as Ken. Hayashida and Ken find out Godzilla responds to bird calls. They plan to transmit the frequency to get Godzilla to fall into a volcano. Now, Steve Martin goes and joins up with the American military, so he has a pretty good speech right off the bat about Godzilla being this force of nature and how in 1956 there was never a corpse found, which also is kind of misleading because it misleads the audience into thinking that that is the Godzilla from 1956. However, when you watch the 1954 movie, you actually see that the reason there was no corpse was found was because Godzilla legitimately dissolves into nothing. He disintegrates in the water, so there was no corpse to be found because he disintegrates into just matter. So this movie doesn't really explain that. It's kind of misleading, but I don't really have too much of a problem with it because I understand it. Now I wish it was Raymond Burr's character who came up with the plans to get Godzilla to fall into the volcano, because he has a really good speech about Godzilla being this force of nature. And I think it would be really cool if he was like, and the only way to stop a force of nature is by God giving you another force of nature, something like that. And then if he was to be like, that's why I proposed the plan that we should find a way to get Godzilla to fall into this volcano. And then you have Hayashida be like, oh, we're working on this bird transmitter to get Godzilla to follow us any place, anywhere. And then if Burr was the one who was like, call the Japanese government, tell these guys who have figured out how to get Godzilla to go place to place, tell them that what they really need to do is to transmit the sound so Godzilla falls in a volcano. It'd give Raymond Burr more to do in this movie. It'd be really cool because then the American scenes would actually feel needed instead of just placed there for American marketable value, which is all it really is in this movie. So it's disappointing. Could have been done better. Now, Godzilla, he heads for Tokyo Bay. We hear the great line. It's in the Japanese cut, but it's especially effective in this cut because I can understand it in my native language. We have the great line from Hayashida who says, when mankind falls into conflict with nature, monsters are born. I freaking love that. That's so great. That is basically sums up the entire history of Godzilla so accurately in one line. I think that's just incredible. It's like the equivalent of the line change back in 1956 when they changed up the line, and it was more effective there in the English cut when they changed Ogata's line to say something like, you have your fears which might become a reality, and you have Godzilla, which is a reality. It's one of those where it's just really, really good and really effective, especially in the English cut. So, like I said, though, this line was in the Japanese version, so we can't really give all the credit to the Americans this time. They definitely did a better job with King of the Monsters than they do with this movie. Now, Godzilla fights the Japanese military, heads into Tokyo. The Russians deliberately, in this version, launched the nuclear missile at Godzilla, which in the Japanese cut, of course, the Russians were trying to stop the bomb when the guy blows up and dies. In this cut, he's intentionally setting off the bomb so that Godzilla will get hit by the bomb and he dies. And it's just one of those things where the Americans, because we didn't like Russia at the time, we changed the line to make Russia more antagonizing towards the heroes of the movie, which is really, it's such a dick move, but, you know, it happened and we can't really change it, you know. You just kind of have to know when you watch the movie that, all right, the actual thing that the Russian guy is saying is that he's going to stop the bomb, which I imagine if you were Russian and you watched this movie and you heard him speak his native language, but then you saw English, and the English subtitles were intentionally antagonizing someone from your own country, even though what he actually says isn't what is on screen for the Americans to understand, I feel like you'd be very upset, or at least I would be very upset with whoever did the dub work or the subtitle work for this movie, as I kind of am, and I'm not Russian or anything like that, but I do think it's like really, it's kind of just, it shows that the Japanese cut, despite trying to be a movie saying that everyone on Earth needs to come together, it basically takes that and spits in the face of the Japanese message with this English cut. So I don't really like it. Now, Godzilla attacks Tokyo. It is much more fast paced, and it's recut that way. I still don't think it works as good as the versions I released on the last video, because those ones have Ifukube music, and that makes everything better. And then one of them has Shin Godzilla music, and that is also going to make it better. But this one recuts it, adds different music from the same movie to make it feel a little bit more fast paced. It works. It definitely feels a lot more action packed. The American scenes are not, like I said, the American scenes are not sure whether to be a comedy or a serious movie. It's weird to watch because they have like weird lines like, "Oh, Japan's got such an urban renewal system" or whatever. It's really weird, but Raymond Burr overall, he's pretty great in this movie, and during these comedic situations, he's sitting there and he is. You can tell, like, even his character is sitting there like, God damn, the military's stupid. But then there's like this weird thing where Steve Martin, for whatever reason, assumes that Godzilla is searching for something in the city. That's what he's doing in Tokyo, is looking for something. Not true. Like in the Japanese cut, he's just there because he's there. In this cut, they're like, he's searching for something. If only we could figure out what it is. And it doesn't really make any sense because, the movie doesn't follow up on that ever. So it's just Raymond Burr being like, he's looking for something. I don't know what it could be. And then it doesn't relate to the plot. It's pretty clunky. Now, what else happens? So, the Super X comes out to fight Godzilla. And it, of course, Godzilla loses at first. The bomb goes off. Godzilla's revived. During all this, the Americans shoot down the Soviet nuke. That's when Godzilla's revived. He kills the Super X. Godzilla is attracted to Oshima Island, and he falls into the volcano. Burr has some epic narration over the end of the movie. So that is honestly another thing that people just give so much praise about this movie that you really can't deny, is Raymond Burr's ending narration being the best part of either version, the Japanese or English cut. He basically sums up, just like I said that great line from Hayashida does, Raymond Burr sums up the entire history of Godzilla again at the end here by saying, whether God throws a tidal wave, an earthquake, or a Godzilla at us, we have to find some way to deal with it because we can't beat it. It's a great, great thing. It's a great line, great narration, and it really ties into that whole like force of nature aspect that 2014 really pushed with its advertising. I think it's absolutely the best part of the movie. But overall, this movie's not very different. In fact, I do prefer the Japanese cut, despite this review being a lot quicker, meaning I was not going to have as many nitpicks to talk about. I do overall prefer the Japanese cut for one main reason, and that is that the English cut takes out so much of the Japanese stuff that you're basically just watching a bunch of characters that you don't know anything about or care about run around through Tokyo, cutting back to American characters that you don't know anything about or care about, and they're not in any danger. You're kind of cutting between these two storylines. It's really uneven. You don't, like I keep saying, know or care about any of the characters, so none of it works. The only thing that's entertaining is when Godzilla's on screen, and he is not on screen a lot in this movie. But I would recommend watching this one if you're a fan of Godzilla King of the Monsters, because it's kind of cool to see Raymond Burr reprise his role as Steve Martin all these years later, 30 years later after the original. It's pretty cool to see him come back and do it. And I think Mr. Martin, as he's called in this movie, I think he's a really good character. So I'm glad that they got him back. I'm glad that he was able to get this movie to be respectful to the original. And then, like I keep saying, he has some of the best narration of the series, really. I think it just is really, really good. I think that overall, go watch the Japanese cut. It's more solid and a more competent movie, and it's deeper, but this movie is not bad. It's not far behind it. So I think last time I gave this movie like an 8. This time I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. The only reason is just like I keep saying, it's because you don't really relate to any of the characters on any level at all, personal, emotional, anything like that. They're just there, and you don't learn anything about them. Nothing interesting happens with them because when the Americans recut this movie, we recut it to be more of an action movie, and that meant that we sacrificed a lot of the interesting stuff going on with it. Now, Godzilla. First of all, I know this review is late. It's a week late. I didn't do that intentionally, but it kind of works out. This review that I'm going to be doing this week is in the 24th through whatever, is going to be Godzilla vs. Biollante. So this movie is very, very deep. There's going to be a lot to talk about. It's going to be a very long review. I'm staring at my notes here. I haven't finished the movie yet, but it's almost 2 full pages of notes already. Usually I fill out a page and a half of notes for Godzilla-Thon, but this one's already 2 pages, and I still got 30 minutes of Godzilla vs. Biollante left. So if you're disappointed in this short review, don't worry about it. Next review is going to be a lot longer. And also, the thing is that I won't be able to work on a new poster picture for the Godzilla-Thons this week, so I won't be able to get out the King Ghidorah review the week that it's supposed to come out, meaning that I guess I'll have to do King Ghidorah as well as Godzilla Mothra Battle for Earth in 1 week together, meaning 2 weeks from now you guys will be getting a double feature Godzilla movie, just like I did with Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, Terror of Mechagodzilla. But yeah, guys, that's really all I have to say about Godzilla 1985. If you're curious on why I was not able to put out my Godzilla-Thon, don't worry about it. I will be doing an explanation video on basically the lack of videos, as well as some updates on the channel and a little bit of thank yous, as well as what I want you guys to do for me in order to benefit yourselves. It's going to be an update video. For now, that's all I'm going to say about it. So if you guys see an update video in these next few days, definitely check it out. It's going to be very important. But yeah, that's all I got to say for this one. Thank you guys all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time for whatever video goes up next. D-Man, out.